Hello guys, and welcome to my third episode of how to become a top 1% destroyer captain. In episode 1 we covered the captain system, inspirations, which captains to use, which inspirations to use. In the second episode we covered basic destroyer movement, positioning, targeting and getting used to heated situations. And this situation will be all about daily business, so advanced destroyer movements, tactical positionings, destroyer torpedo aimings, gun aimings, ammunition selections, and stuff like that. Let's kick off with drifting. Drifting happens in fast destroyers. If you go full speed ahead and you do a sharp turn left or right, your ship will be drifting. So if you do a sharp right turn full speed ahead, your ship will drift to the right, which means like on a railway you do the left turn, but like on a highway, on a wet highway, your car or ship in this case will leave its track and have a movement towards the curve. So as you can see here, it moves to the right while turning to the left. And in a few seconds I do a sharp right turn and the ship will move to the left while doing the right turn. So I call it a drift. And this drift is a tactical feature which you can use in the game to your advantage. And also you can use the speed control to disable the drift. So if you do the turn sharp left or right and you reduce the speed, the engine speed, to half, then the drift is most of the time not happening. So by reducing speed to half of the speed, you can avoid torpedoes. So given a situation where a torpedo is coming on a 90-degree from your right hand side, then you do a sharp right turn, and depending on where these torpedoes are coming, you aim at one of these torpedoes and put your nose straight into the torpedo, but because of the drift you will pass that torpedo despite aiming into it. This is the situation number one. The situation number two is the drift would drift you into that torpedo. So what you want to do is you reduce the speed to half and the drift will not happen, and the torpedo will pass to your left because you pass the torpedo on the right. Or for example, like here, I'm demonstrating that. I want to do a sharp turn because I'm too close to an island. So to avoid the drift, I reduce my speed to half, and you can see there's no drift or almost no drift happening. So drift will be happening if you go very fast, and will almost not happening if you put down the engine to half. You don't need to put it down to a quarter. Only in extreme situations this might help, but it's enough to go half speed usually if you want to do the drift. It also helps if you have the propulsion mod installed, because the speed will be reduced much faster if you run the propulsion mod instead of the turning mod. The turning, the rudder shift mod will help you to change course a bit quicker, but the propulsion mod will help you to reduce and speed up. So slamming the brakes is faster with the propulsion mod. So I run the propulsion mod in most of my destroyers because most of the time is slowing down in smokes, speeding up in smokes. So this is where the propulsion mod comes in very handy. And especially if you want to do drifts and avoid drifts, you need the propulsion mod, because reducing speed to half of the speed, it helps very much. In this AI game, which is for demonstration only, I'm provoking some situations you might encounter in regular games. So what we're doing here now is we're doing a suicide run, so we're rushing this fuso, and the plan is to do a sharp turn just in front of it and see the difference what the drift does to your shift. So we're speeding up as fast as we can. Unfortunately, we don't have the speed boost right now. So the faster the ship goes, the greater the effect. But again, with drift, and if you're rushing the ship, you have to calculate that you will be still moving forward while you're doing the side turn. And sometimes if you start the turn too late, you drift into that ship and you come too close into that torpedoes don't aim area. So this is when you hit the when you start the aim prediction, then there is this uncolored area from your ship to the white area, and inside that area your torpedoes don't arm. So if you hit a ship inside that area, you don't do damage at all. So you need to make sure that the target ship is inside the white area, or you can't do any damage. So now we're doing the same story on this New Mexico, but now we will be reducing the speed by half, and you can see what's the difference in turn and how much tighter the turn is if we do it this way. So you can see there's almost no drift here, and this is what we want to show here. So drift is lesson number 1. Get used to make active use of drift or no drift. It's your decision if you run into that island while doing the turn, or if you reduce the speed and time, or if you dodge the torpedo by using the drift. The next tip is, let's talk about zone torpedoes. So when a game starts, or any time in the game, a lot of people tell you, oh, it's a good idea to put some area denying torpedoes down into the water. If you know what you're doing, and if you know where it's most likely enemy destroyers will show up, it might be a good idea, but only if you have a fast reload torpedo. It takes about 60 to 90 seconds to be in a position after the game starts where you will see enemy ships, and you can really have a good idea where to torp. So you don't want to miss that situation because you have a 2-minute reload in torpedoes and you just did some random torpedoes like I do here. So this is quite a good spot for random torpedoes because most of the time they show up there. But then again, you want to make sure that you have the torpedoes reloaded as soon as you see enemy ships. So in this map, I'm leaving the sea spawn, and this is another thing. Most of the time, the rule is do not leave your spawn. So this is a different situation here because I wanted this zoning torps, and I can't go into sea cap because I would be without torpedoes when I see the destroyer, if the destroyer would enter that. So that's why I do zone torps and I leave that area to make sure my torpedoes are ready in time. Also, I have to highlight my 4.6 kilometers here concealment, which is the so-called speed concealment. So why speed boost is active? This captain, it's the captain perk number 2, the rightmost. This captain does use it, and it's a special gimmick of the French destroyers who can use that. So you have a super concealment, and with 4.6 kilometers I almost outspot everybody. So you might want to try this in the French destroyers, but it's a more advanced features because it only is active while the speed boost is running. You can see the clock ticking on the top left. As soon as this is 0, my concealment will go up to 5 point, I don't know, 6 or 7, something like that. So what we're doing here now is we're capping the B cap because foremost your job is to get the caps. This is the job of destroyer. You want to spot, you want to get the cap. And here we see the Mutsu rushing in, and due to our super concealment, we prepare ourselves to torp the Mutsu. And obviously it's gonna beach there at the island, so we're torping this area, and lucky for us the Gade is showing up. So we want to do a sharp turn and make use of the other side torpedoes, because some destroyers, they have launches to single side only, so you have to make a turn and get used to do this turn. And maximize the use of your torpedoes. So back to zoning. As you can see, I used the right-hand side torpedoes when I arrived at the cap because they had reloaded already after 65 seconds. And this is my story why I left the C cap. So I was of use in B cap here, and now we go back to C because you can see the carriers there, our ships are there, and now we need to help the B cap because we got the C cap because we got the B cap. Points are ticking, so we want to see now. Also note this is a carrier game, so in carrier games things are a little bit different from time to time because you don't want to use the usual routes because this is where the carriers spot most of the time. So you need to try to avoid certain rounds. So what I do is I don't immediately enter the cap because obviously that raises a balloon to any carrier pilot. Hey, I'm here, please spot me. And unless you have an American DD with a 2-minute smoke and a sonar combination, you don't want to sit in the smoke and a cap with a carrier around and enemy destroyers sonaring and torpedoing your smoke. So that's why you want to get into a position where nobody expects you, where you can drop your torpedoes and where you can be of use. Now you can see the advantage of single-sided torpedo launchers. They don't have to turn. So in some ships where the launchers work on both sides, you would lose like 10 seconds for them to turn around. And with single-sided, I just fire them. So when we spot this Akatsuki here, we just release our torpedoes here. Unfortunately, we didn't hit any. But we got some decent shots out, and now we want to chase him. Because obviously he should be within 3 or 4 kilometer range, and before he gets concealed again, we're pushing out and we want to kill this destroyer. Because task number 2 next to capping is kill enemy destroyers. It's always a good idea to play with the throttle, so we put in the reverse to hit the brakes, so he misses some of his bullets, and as you can see we barely lost any HP and we comfortably take him out here. So next off we will be engaging a cruiser in this game, and this is a perfect example how to rush a cruiser. Yes, you heard, I am used and I encourage you to hunt cruisers. Point. How do you do that? You want to make use, first of all, of some zone torping. Because the time these torpedoes reach the cruiser, he needs to avoid these torpedoes, so he cannot focus completely at shooting at you. And next is, you want some torpedoes ready once you close range. So now we are located, but we are very fast approaching him. So it takes some time for him to realize we're here. And now he does his turn. We get out our second set of zone torpedoes. Again, they are not aimed to kill him. They are just aimed for distraction. And the third set is set to kill him. And now we're switching to HP because he comes along broadside and we want to citadel him. About 10 seconds before I hit the brakes. So you can see the effect, and this guy was aiming at my full speed, but because of the propulsion mod, the ship slowed down very, very fast, so all the torpedoes missed. This is also always a good tip. If you're rushing a cruiser, hit the brakes about 5 to 10 seconds in front of him, because his torpedoes will be aimed at the aim prediction most of the time, and most of the time they're gonna miss. Let's talk about the typical situation of a destroyer. It's the 1 versus 1 after a game starts. So you're approaching the cap and you expect an enemy DD to be there, so you need to be ready. So what is important? You want to avoid any support ship of the enemy DD. So you want to position yourself in a position where you can control the cap, but you don't take too much damage from his ships while you're sitting there. Because if any enemy ship, let's say 2 other cruisers or battleships, shoot at you, you lose probably half of your health and the fight is lost because the enemy DD will kill you. So you need to get a situation where you have a fair 1 versus 1. So position yourself in a way that incoming support ships can hardly hit you. You have to know what sort of ship you're in. In this case, the Kleber is the fastest ship in the game, so obviously I'm far ahead of any enemy DD, so I choose the place to fight. In a slower DD, you need to make use of your sonar and approach slowly, depending on what enemy DD you will be up against. So here you can see I put my zone torps into the water because I expect a slower DD to coming directly into the cap. I put the zone torps in because I have a 60-second reload and I'm the fastest DD, so in the time the enemy DD shows up, I should have new torpedoes already. So as you can see here, I'm slowing down, I'm using this island as a cover and I'm going back behind it. So if I spot an enemy DD, I have no problem with the support ships. So now again, I don't open fire because it's another 5 seconds till I get the cap. So first I want to secure the cap now before shooting anybody. And now we expect incoming zone torpedoes of the enemy DD because we have support ships in the back and either he aims at them and we don't want to catch these torpedoes meant for our ship, our partnerships, but we don't want to catch them accidentally. And we also want to avoid the zone torps, like here you can see. So now the enemy DD is without torpedoes and we are ready to engage. So now we move in to spot him, and lucky for us, he also decided to spot us. So we're getting again zone torpedoes into the water, and then we're hitting the reload booster. And wait for our support ship, use the island as a cover. So he's spotted, he used his guns, so he can't use his concealment or island, and we hope for our support ship to finish him off. And now we use this island to break the line of sight to his support ships, so they will miss us with their shots. Let's continue with this game. Most of the people say you have to stay alive as long as possible and you're valuable. Yes, that's probably right, but also you need to take out the enemy DDs, and if you take out 2 of the biggest threat of the enemy, your ship is well worth it and your play was well worth it. So I didn't expect a second DD here, but you will see I will encounter a Goering, and luckily for me I have left-sided torpedo launchers, so I can quickly turn around and use these while I'm still trying to figure out to drop some torps on these ships. If the Goering wouldn't have been here, that would have been a slaughter fest here. But as you can see, he's very close and he was sitting in the smoke, which I didn't expect. So I make use of the forward-facing torpedoes here, and the Goering gets me with his torpedoes, but I also get the Goering, and you can see in the results screen that was a short game, but I took out 2 destroyers and I'm leading the team in points, and we won the games, and it's already 7 versus 5 ships in this game. So it was a very good trade, and yeah, I would say well played and bad luck in the end, but still very good gameplay here. So don't be afraid to engage enemy DDs and to trade your ship early as long as it is worth it. It's not worth to trade against a battleship, but it's worth to trade against 2 enemy DDs. Next up is a game in the Z23, which shows some of the things we have been talking about. So first off, again, we want to go for the cap, and we make use of zone torpedoing here. Z23 in this configuration has a torpedo reload of around 60 seconds, so this is fast enough to do some zone torpedoing here. And we get into the position and expect an enemy DD and incoming other ships like battleships or cruisers. So as you can see here behind this island there's a straight line, and what I sometimes do is I drop some torpedoes in between these lines, because that's the point. You can see where I am located, and that's the point where sometimes enemy destroyers are, but I wait till I get a clear shot on the enemy BB, so on the enemy battleship. So while I'm hoping to get an enemy destroyer, I make sure at least I have a valid aim on an enemy battleship, so I don't totally waste my torpedoes. And as you can see, the cap is contested now, so the enemy destroyer is here. But we are not afraid because we have a sonar smoke combination. So we're gonna stay centered in the cap to have a maximum control of this cap. And we're pretty lucky that this Akatsuki takes one of our zone torpedoes. To be honest, whenever I do zone torpedoing, about 1 out of 20 times I get a hit. So I'm not a too big fan of zone torpedoing, because most of the time these torpedoes are wasted, and more importantly, they reveal your location. They reveal, attention, there is a destroyer around. So think carefully when it's worth to do some zone torpedoing and when it's not, because you're always revealing your location. And the biggest advantage you have as a destroyer is the enemy does not know where you are. So let's talk about situational awareness and things like that. What do we have here? We have a rushing Brandenburg avoiding our torpedoes. We have support in the background. The Brandenburg doesn't have support, but he's a big threat. He's 4 kilometers away. So, will we have our torpedoes ready, or do we move out? Is the support strong enough to bring down the Brandenburg? Because in 3 kilometer range, he will auto-detect us and his secondaries will shred us. So, what we decide is we're gonna have the torpedoes ready in time. We use the island, we're gonna rush him, and as you can see, he makes a left turn, probably to prepare the torpedoes because we are located, and then he beaches here. So as you can see, there are the torpedoes, and we decide to go for the suicide run. And you could either go left like I do, or could have made a right turn. But in a right turn, there was a slow probability that the Brandenburg moves forward again, and the ship passed the back of the Brandenburg. So that wasn't a 100% guaranteed suicide run. So that's why I made the left turn. And since he dropped his torpedoes already, that was a safe bet. It was a huge trade in terms of HP because the secondaries are deadly, but it was a short time and well worth because there's no other ship around. You can see the other battleship moved out. So now we take the cap, and then of course we move on to the south cap because the task is to get the caps. And if you're not a big fan of capping, let me tell you, caps are the thing which yields the most XP, silver and everything. So every cap is probably worth about 500, 600 base XP. So if you get 2 caps, solo caps, I'm talking about solo caps, you probably have 1000 base XP per se. So that means in a standard 1500 base XP game, you will end up 2500 already. Not talking about win bonus. So these caps are really pay off if you take a solo cap. In a share cap, my experience, it's about 250, 300 base XP, something like that. But still, it's a huge amount. So next lesson is get the caps if you want to be top of your team. And if you want to grind silver, if you grind XP, get these caps. Caps pay off much more than any damage you do to a ship. Talking about damage to ships and XP. Most people think the more damage they do, the more XP they get. No, you don't. XP is based on percentage you take off an enemy ship. Let's give you an example. If there is a destroyer with 10,000 hit points and there is a battleship with 100,000 hit points, if you get 5,000 of the destroyer and 50,000 of the battleship, which ship will give you more XP? Well, you will get absolutely the same XP because you took 50% both of each ship. Having said that, it's worse to kill a destroyer or take 70% of a destroyer because you take 7k or 8k of his 10k. It's much more valuable than taking 20k over 100k battleship. So always make sure that you kill the enemy destroyers. If you get a torpedo hit on an enemy destroyer and completely sink that ship, take 100% off, you get the maximum XP. So back to this ship. We're smoking up here. We are using the guns, and yes, destroyers have guns. You should use them. And since the Zara was totally broadside, I used some AP, but now we're switching to HE because we want some fires on the battleship. Unfortunately, they move out, and we need some help from our team to spot them, but it takes some time for them because either they're behind islands or they're too far out, and we don't get a clear vision. So now we open up again on the Zara because Zara is the biggest threat here. The cruiser is always the biggest threat to destroyers. And again, broadsiding Zara 7 kilometers. We're using some HP, but again Zara turns out, and HP doesn't do too much damage, so we need to go back to HE. And also we need to move on, but we're not opening fire now because Zara is sailing in a straight line into our torpedoes, and we're just ready to get into 4 kilometer HP range because then we are in citadeling range. So if he misses our torpedoes, he's close enough to us that we can finish him off with HP, but we leave it for our team for now because we don't want to lose our concealment here. So again, make sure that you analyze the tactical situation you're in. Situation here was we want to bring down the cruiser. We had the support, we had the spotting from the team, so we stayed in the smoke as long as possible. We make use of AP and HE whenever it's suitable, and we don't give up our concealment for no reason. So if there wasn't any support here from our team, of course we had moved out the smoke, we had used AP, and we had rushed this Zara to bring it down. But that wasn't necessary here, so we move on. So let's talk about map strategic and how to win games, how to improve your win rate. So what would you do in this given situation? You have 2 battleships, 1 destroyer against 2 battleships, 1 destroyer. You lead in caps, you lead in points. What are you going to do? Well, in my opinion, the battleships should just have moved out, because if we lose a battleship, we lose points. It gets much closer. The enemy DD could cap some caps back, and the game would be won by the red team. So there's a threat. We lose this team by losing the battleships. And as you can see here, the enemy Somers is pretty happy to torp our ships. So what I'm doing is, I saw the torps coming from the right hand side, so I'm pretty safe to be able to torp the ships on the left hand side. And obviously the Jean Bart will use this small in between islands gap to move out to the right hand side. So I could have waited there for the Jean Bart and torp that area, but risk is I run into the Somers, and with only 2000 HP I have no chance against the Somers because I don't know what is its HP status, and even if he's on 1 HP, he probably will finish me off with 1 salvo. So I need to avoid the Somers, but at the same time I need to torp these ships. So I decided to focus on the North Carolina, and I need to stay at the corner to be maximum away from the Somers. As you can see, the Somers is pretty successful in torping our battleships, and the North Carolina was expected to engage our battleships. That's why I placed these torpedoes where I placed them, but He's turning away, he's turning in, so he's running evasive maneuvers. It's pretty hard to predict. So his gun's pointing to our ships. So again, I'm expecting him to turn southward and then northward again. So I'm placing now two different torpedoes. One as if he goes right again and one as if he goes south again. In a turn, you always have to calculate much bigger lead than your aim prediction does. So I gave it about twice the aim prediction ahead, because in a turn the ship increases the distance to your torpedoes, so that's why they travel longer and that's why you need more lead here. At the same time, I'm moving out north because, as you can see, we lost both battleships, but we still have 3 caps, so all I need to do is to run away. This is the situation you have to analyze now. And lucky for me, we got a flood on the North Carolina, so that's going to finish him off. And once again, I don't want to engage the Jean Bart or the Somers, I just want to run off. I'm not keen for damage records, I want to win this game. So there's no way the enemy team can win this in the remaining time. But still, we can try to drop some torpedoes. And in our current situation, if I were the Somers was right of the A-cap, and he moved around together with the Jean Bart southwards of the island, or he probably is going to go in between these islands, and that's why I dropped my first sets of torpedoes in between these islands in a blind fire, because I think the Somers expects me to cap the A-cap. Honestly, there's no reason, because we have enough caps, so that's why I'm staying out. And Somers with long-range torpedoes is a big threat for me to kill me here with random torpedoes, so let's move out. Then again, Jean Bart is coming around, and that's tempting to get some torpedoes on the Jean Bart, but you have to resist. You have to move out. And again, a second set of torpedoes is almost ready. So we're doing the same again. We're moving out, but we do some zone torpedoes now much closer to the island, because if he's coming south to north or through the gap, at this point of time, he's probably expected somewhere around the north corner of this island, and that's where my torpedoes go to, and we keep moving out. And to cut a long story short, we're gonna get the Somers here, and this shows how to win a game strategically, not to take unnecessary risk, not to reveal your position too early. Keep an eye on the points. You want to win the games by points, even if overpowered and outnumbered. And as you can see from the result screen, capping pays off. So make sure you get the caps, you get the solo caps, you get the shared caps, and the rest comes by itself. Okay, now for the final game, which also has some interesting situations. In the beginning, I'm running in the Somers with 12-kilometer torpedo range, so I did one set zone torpedoing to the right-hand side, because you can see on the white circle what is the gun range or the torpedo range, and you can evaluate which area your torpedoes are going to reach on the minimap. You see that white circle that shows now the torpedo range, and you can see which points you can reach here. So this is great if you want a zone torp. You can justify what makes sense. So now I'm torping the Iowa, and I'm just adjusting the aim marker with the rightmost part in between these islands, because I just want one torpedo to pass in between. And now I want to ignite a fire, because I want to trigger the damage con and then burn down the Iowa. That was the idea here. And still we're capping, we're smoking up, so we're hoping somebody is spotting for us. And yeah, we need to alternate targets, and the Chapayev is a big threat because it has a radar. So we make we need to make sure we bring down the Chapayev as soon as possible. And as you can see here, my rightmost torpedo passed in between, and the Iowa obviously is not expecting the torpedo here. Now we just need to ignite the Iowa and we have a permanent fire. Unfortunately for us, the Orange Jesus is not in our favor. Now we got one fire, but one is not enough to burn down a half HP Iowa. But still we keep shooting. So now we see the lightning, and obviously the lightning has sonar, 3.5 kilometers. We need to stay out of his sonar range. We immediately open fire. And we stay at the very edge of our smoke, because obviously most players torp around the center of the smoke. So I'm expecting his torpedoes to come to my center, and as you can see, they are there as expected. And after the torpedoes have been sent, we can move into the smoke safely, because the reload is about 60-70 seconds depending on his configurations. But at the moment there's no need, because nobody's shooting at us, so we can safely sit here. Now we want a fire on the Sinop, because we launched some torpedo on the reversing Iowa in that corner, and also on the Sinop. And I think one set is not enough, because there are so many battleships. But we still focused on the lightning. We don't want to get rid of too many torpedoes in the long range, and still torpedoes were on reload. So we need to see how the situation develops. Now we got the cap, we can move, and instantly we get challenged by torpedoes again to our smoke. And yeah, lucky for us, we hit the Iowa, because he kept reversing, which is a bit strange, but you never have to underestimate how strange players work here. So as with torps, you can see we talked about the drift earlier, and I'm drifting into one torpedo, so now I need to carefully maneuver. I don't drift anymore. I slow down to have them past, and now we can move back. We highlight the shores here for the team, because the shores is down in HP and is another radar cruiser. So the next tip for you is you need to play some cruisers. You need to understand which cruisers do have radar and what is their range and their duration. Because if you have a 20-second, 25-second duration radar, it's a different situation. If you want to stay in your position and the ship has a 15-second reload, that means he can shoot at you once or twice probably. But if it's a 35 seconds radar and a 5-second reload of the ship, then you are in deep trouble and you're probably dead. So you need to evaluate if you have to move out if somebody pops radar, or if you can, let's say, stand it out. Because you have a full HP pool and your nose in, whatever. So that's also very important to understand what is the radar of the enemy ships and who is the threat to you. So again, the Chapayev here is about to move in. The Sinop is our, let's say, next target, and obviously the destroyer is still in the smoke, so we need to focus on the destroyer and the Chapayev. And you can see this is what I was talking about. Now we are pretty safe, because almost nobody except the destroyer can shoot at us. So we turn our tail to the destroyer and the guns who can reach us. And now we turn into the Chapayev, because we expect some shots from the Chapayev as well. So we're wiggling a bit, but the sonar is not too long lasting, so we're not in a big threat. We use the damage con after all the shots are gone. We smoke up, and here you can see how I do the turn torpedoing. So the Brandenburg obviously is doing a hard left turn, and I gave it a two times the width of the aim prediction. I gave it a 2 times lead. So you have the aim prediction, and I put this twice ahead. And this is where I really aimed the torpedoes, and still this was not enough. So I should have given it a 3 times lead. So this is what most people underestimate when a battleship turns from coming towards you, going left or right. You need a 3 times aim prediction lead. So for this to understand, you need a lot of experience and a lot of trials and errors. but you will get better over the time. So minimum is 2 leads in a turning battleship. If he does a 45 degrees, and sometimes it's a 3 times the aim prediction position when the battleship starts turning, to be able to hit him. So back to the Chapayev. The Brandenburg moves on, but the Chapayev shoots at us, and we need to get rid of the Chapayev. Our smoke is still there. You can see that the smoke lasts 1 minute. We turn around to get some torpedoes out on the Brandenburg and use the island as cover, but at the same time we turn the guns to the left. And we want to approach through the smoke because our concealment is pretty low with 5.4, and the Chapayev will shred us if he spots us at 5.4 kilometers. So we want to make use of the smoke and get as close as possible, and then we want to zone torp his expected position. So remember, he's moving forward. He's now within 3.5 kilometers of us. So he has a hard time to dodge torpedoes, and we expect him broadside to us. So that's why AP is loaded. And yay, here it is. And use AP and get the citadels and send him back to port. And obviously with the help of a torpedo, he is done. So now you analyze the game situation. It's 6 versus 4. There's 1 cruiser and 3 battleships, so we're in a good position. They are a little bit ahead in caps, but we lead in points. So if we bring down the remaining ships, we're on the safe side. So we're trying to help ignite a fire on the Sinope. Again, RNG is not in our favor, but we keep shooting. And then you will see that the mines is to show up and coming towards us. At the moment we're using the island as cover, so the mines can't hit us, but soon he can, so we will be approaching the mines. And the mines is the last ship we're going to approach because he's gonna kill us. But it doesn't matter because at that point of time the mines is the only enemy ship against 4 of our ship, and that is the reason why I kept shooting him and didn't move out, because I was expecting him to reverse and turn his broadside towards our guns, and then we would have citadeled and finished him. But unfortunately he was very clever. He reversed from that island. He's going to beach with the back towards us, so our HP didn't do enough damage, and the HE as well. At the same time it forced him to show broadside to our team, but unfortunately our team didn't capitalize from that. So conclusion is make use of the drift, make use of AP when you're coming close range, get the caps, contest the caps, use the smoke, be attentive for enemy destroyers, sit at the corner of the smoke, not to catch the center torpedoes, don't spam all torpedoes at a time, be careful when zone torping so you don't run out of torpedoes when you need them. And yeah, I hope you got some tips of the next episode, and this is also, I would say, the intermediate level of destroyer play. And I will most probably do an advanced 4th episode where I pick very specific situations. So leave your comments here, leave your suggestions, what you want to see, and how you are going to do that in your destroyer, and what is your strategy as a cruiser pilot to counter my strategies. So let's improve each other by discussing that. And yeah, looking forward to your feedback. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, and see you out there on the waters and high seas. Bye bye.